Greetings, Space Explorers! I'm Steve Tassi, the board game guy, and in this video I am going to teach you how to play the worker placement game of space colonization, Alien Frontiers, from Clever Mojo Games and designer Tori Neiman. It looks a lot more complicated than it actually is, so let's open it up and get you playing in just a few minutes. In Alien Frontiers, players race to construct a fleet of spacecraft and colonize a distant planet. The game is over as soon as one player lands their 8th colony on the planet, and at that time, the player with the highest score wins. It's usually the person who ended the game, but not always. Every colony is worth 1 point, control of a territory is worth 1 point, and there are alien tech cards that are worth points as well. Each player picks a color and takes the 6 dice, 8 colonies, and rocket ship of their color. Place the small scoreboard next to the main board and have each player put their rocket ship on the 0 space. Shuffle the deck of alien tech cards and deal 1 face-up to each player. Then place 3 face-up tech cards near the top right corner of the board, along with the face-down deck of alien tech cards. Place the orange discs that represent solar energy in a pile in the upper left corner of the board near the solar converter. To save time, I will be referring to solar energy as ZAP for the rest of the video. Place the gray cubes that represent lunar rocks in the bottom right corner near the lunar mine. These will be called rock from now on. If playing with 4 players, leave all the spaces at each of the different orbital facilities empty. If playing with only 2 or 3 players, you will cover up the spaces with dots printed on them. The 3-dot spaces are covered in a 3-player game, and the 2-dot spaces are covered in a 2 or 3-player game. Your set may have cardboard tokens to blot out these spaces, so you won't be able to use them, but if you don't have those, don't worry, just use the dice of the player colors that you aren't using. Place the 3 field tokens beside the board for later use. Place the ability tiles on the different territories on the planet and put the clear relic die on the Burroughs Desert in the center of the board. Each player sets aside 3 of their dice for now, placing the other 3 on the maintenance bay space of the board. Your starting fleet is 3 dice, but you will have the opportunity to build more dice as the game goes on. Determine the start player however you care to. That player starts with 0 zap and 0 rock. The second player starts with 1 zap. The third player starts with 1 rock. And if there's a 4th player, they start with 1 each of zap and rock. You're now set up to play. On your turn, you will pick up your ships, roll them, place them, and activate orbital facilities. You may use tech cards along the way. There are 8 different orbital facilities that players can dock their ship dice at to produce effects on their turn. If the spaces at an orbital facility are blocked off, either by cardboard tokens or other players' dice, you cannot place your own dice there. Most facilities have restrictions as to what value dice you can use at them, but some can be used by any dice. The Shipyard. This is where you go to build more ships for your fleet. The more ships you have, the more actions you can accomplish in a turn, so using it early and often is a good idea. To use the Shipyard, you must dock a pair of dice that are of equal value. That's indicated by the equal sign between 2 spaces for dice. It will also cost you zap and rock to build a new ship. How much depends on how many ships are in your fleet. So you start with 3. The 4th one costs you 1 zap and 1 rock. Then the 5th one, 2 zap, 2 rock. And the 6th one will cost you 3 and 3. When you use the Shipyard, place the new die that you've just built on the maintenance bay space. You will pick it up with the rest of your fleet at the start of your next turn. The Solar Converter. You can use any number of dice of any value at the solar converter. Each ship die you dock here will generate 1 or more zap depending on the value of the die. A 1 or a 2 on the die gets you 1 zap, a 3 or a 4 will get you 2, and a 5 or a 6 will earn you 3 zap. Of zap and rock, zap is by far the easier resource to gather. Each player has a storage limit of 8 resources. It can be any combination of zap and rock, but you can never have more than a total of 8 units. The Orbital Market. This is where you go to convert zap into rock. It takes a pair of equal dice to use the market, and the lower the pair, the better. The value of the dice is your conversion rate. So with a pair of 6s, it costs you 6 zap to get 1 rock, but with a pair of 1s, it costs you 1 zap to get 1 rock. Much better deal. The alien artifact. This is where you go to get alien technology. There are always 3 alien tech cards available at the artifact. Spend any number of dice whose combined values equal 8 or greater and claim 1 tech card of your choice. You are never allowed to have 2 of the same tech card in your possession. There is a second way to use the alien artifact, and that is you can spend a single die of any value to sweep away the 3 cards currently available, put them in the discard pile, and put out 3 brand new ones. You can do this if you don't like the current choices, or if you really want to deny a tech card to an opponent, but you don't have the right dice to buy it for yourself. Tech cards do all manner of different things, but most of them allow you to manipulate your dice in some way, or manipulate the dice of other players. Some are simply worth a victory point. Many tech cards have 2 different uses separated by a line across the middle of the text box. The top power is one that can be used over and over again. It probably costs 1 or more zap to activate. Tech cards that require zap to activate can only be used once per turn. Below the line is a one-time use that requires you to destroy the card in order to use it. Read your tech cards. They say what they do on them. The Raider's Outpost. It takes 3 dice of consecutive values in order to use the Raider's Outpost. So you need a 1, 2, 3, a 2, 3, 4, a 3, 4, 5, and so on. When you dock here, you get to steal your choice of either 1 tech card or up to 4 resources from an opponent. Remember, you can't have duplicate tech cards, so you can't steal a copy of something you already own. Also, you have a maximum storage of 8 resource units, so you can't steal more than you can hold. You can steal it, but you then have to discard the excess. This facility is unique out of all the orbital facilities in that, with the others, if a space is filled by a die, you cannot use that facility. But if the Raider's Outpost is full, you can still use it if your set of dice are of a higher value than the consecutive set of dice that are currently occupying the facility. If you have a higher set of dice, remove your opponent's ship dice, put them in the maintenance bay, put your ships in the outpost, and use it. The lunar mine is where you go to collect valuable rock. If there are no dice docked at the mine, you may use a die of any value to collect 1 rock. However, as soon as there are any dice in the mine, even your own, whatever die you send there must now be equal to or higher than the highest value die currently docked at the mine. The colony constructor is an expensive way to quickly build a colony on the planet. To use it, you must have 3 equal dice, and it costs you 3 rock to use. When you use it, you immediately place a colony piece on the territory of your choice. Move the rocket ship up 1 space on the board when you do that. If your colony is the first in that territory, or by adding it to the territory, you now have more colonies in it than any other player does, you control that territory and gain its bonus ability. Score another point on the scoreboard and take the tile that represents the ability of that territory. If you tie the current controller of the territory, they drop 1 point and give up the ability. Nobody has it in the case of a tie because no one controls the territory. The terraforming station. This is another fast and costly way to get a new colony on the board. To use it requires the use of a die that is valued 6 and 1 of each resource. Using it also destroys the die, meaning that it is removed from your fleet. Place the 6 on the space and spend your zap and your rock. Then put a colony on the board and follow the colonizing rules that I just explained. At the start of your next turn, the die that you docked in the terraforming station is removed from the board and goes back into your unbuilt fleet reserve. It is important to note that you cannot send a ship to this facility if you only have 3 ships in your fleet. It's just not allowed. The Colonist Hub. This is the slow and steady way to get a colony on the board. It takes time, but it's cheap. This is where you spend dice that you don't have anything better to do with. Each player has their own track on the hub, so it's never blocked for you. The hub does not care what value dice you dock at it. If you have no dice currently docked at the hub, the first one you put there puts a colony of yours on the first space of the track. Each die you place at this facility from now on until the colony is completed advances that colony 1 space along the track. You can only have 1 colony moving through the hub at any given time. When the colony reaches the final space of the track, you spend 1 zap and 1 rock and land it on the planet following the previously explained colonizing rules. If you don't have the resources to spend at that time, the colony sits there waiting until you do have the resources to pay for it to land. Those are all the facilities that you can possibly use with your dice. So pick up your dice, roll them, then use them in whichever facilities you can. You get to resolve the facilities you use in whichever order you like. When your actions are done, leave the dice on the board. Leave them where they are. The spaces that they occupy are now unavailable to your opponents until the start of your next turn. Territorial Abilities. Each of the territories on the planet has a special power that it grants to the player who controls it. Remember, to control a territory, you have to have more colonies in it than any other player does. Each of the bonus abilities is related to one of the orbital facilities. If you control the Asimov crater, every time you dock 2 or more dice at the Colonist Hub, you get 1 extra bump of movement along the track. If you control the Bradbury Plateau, the colony Constructor only costs you 2 rock instead of 3. You still need to dock 3 dice of equal value there. If you control the Van Vogt Mountains, the first die you dock at the lunar mine can be of any value, regardless of what dice are currently docked at that facility. If you control the Pole Foothills, using alien tech cards costs you 1 less zap than the card indicates. Even though this discount may reduce the cost of using a card to 0 zap, you can still only use it once per turn. If you control the Heinlein Plains, you always have the 1-to-1 trade ratio when you use the Orbital Market. The ships that you dock there still have to be of equal value, but it doesn't matter what value they are, you get the 1-to-1 trade rate. If you control the Lem Badlands, every ship you dock at the Solar Converter generates 1 extra zap for you. You are still beholden to the 8 resource limit. The player that controls the Herbert Valley gets a discount on all ships built at the Shipyard. You pay 1 less zap and 1 less rock to build ships. Lastly, there is the Burroughs Desert. The player who controls this territory is able to have an extra ship in their fleet. It is the clear die called the Relic ship, and it costs you 1 zap and 1 rock to build regardless of how many ships are currently in your fleet. You do not need to dock a ship at the Shipyard to build the Relic ship. You just pay the resource cost and put the die in the maintenance bay. It will be there at the start of your next turn if you still control the Burroughs Desert. If territory control is taken away from you by another player, the Relic ship is returned to the desert. Fields. There are 3 fields in the game that can be generated by sacrificing specific alien tech cards. There are 2 of each card in the game, but only 1 of each field marker. This means that the first player to use such a tech card puts the corresponding field marker on their choice of territory, and if someone else uses the other card later on, they get to move the field to the territory of their choice. The isolation field comes from the Stasis Beam tech card. This field nullifies the territorial ability, so the territory's controller doesn't get that special power. The positron field comes from the Data Crystal card. Whoever controls the territory with this field in it gets 1 extra victory point. If the positron field moves or the player loses control of the territory, they immediately lose that extra victory point. The repulsor field comes from the Gravity Manipulator card. No one is allowed to land colonies in the territory with the repulsor field in it. One last little oddball rule that may or may not come up while you're playing. If your 8th colony is slowly chugging away along the Colonist Hub and your roll gives you the ability to use either the colony constructor or the terraforming station, you may remove that colony from the hub to land it on the planet through the use of one of those other facilities. Under no other circumstances, though, are you allowed to remove a colony from the hub prematurely. The game ends at the end of the turn of the player who lands their 8th colony on the planet. After adjusting scoring for that landing and its fallout, territory control may change, the player with the most points on the scoreboard wins the game. If you like Alien Frontiers, you may want to look into other worker placement games such as Lords of Waterdeep, Stone Age, Spirium, Lewis and Clark, The Godfather, Corleone's Empire, and many, many more. I'm Steve Tassi, the board game guy, and I hope you enjoy Alien Frontiers. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more game tutorials and general gaming advice.